In this video I'm going to be stripping an LT77 without any special tools. Well, one special tool, a little clamp that goes around here, which you can buy at just most hardware shops now, pretty cheap. This is the worst part to get off, but this box here behind me now, which is now finished, was a bit of a bugger because inside here there's a little grub screw holding the detent ball and spring in. Well, it was a screwdriver slot and it had rounded off, so I ended up having to take the box apart in a rather unconventional way, as you will see. I've got a video about this, pulling this off with a tool. I'll just do a small insert at the beginning and then we'll continue with this series about stripping it down, because it was kind of a surprising box. So what you've got to do first of all is got to take the circlip off here. I'm not going to take that off again, but it's a waste of time. And what we need is some 3/8 stud bar, which I've got here. I've already cut them down. And something like a strong back. Now I had this one on my shelf. I'd used for a while. I think I used it for putting Sherpa kingpins in. That's how long ago I've used that. But I drilled 2 holes in, which were the centres of these holes here once you had a ring in it. Now this is a ring off an R380, but it's the same. So we measure those centres there, transfer it up to there, and then we can put this on. Now it should fit. It should fit. It might be a tight fit. The lion sleeps tonight, but I've got an R380 here to test. I think we're about there. There you go. It's off. But we're going to get into it by first of all taking off the bell housing and get the right bolt and get the right socket. Grab a little tray to put all your bits and bobs in and some plastic bags. Now in there's the little pivot. You've got to take that off before you can get the bolts out. Sort of a good example of when you're replacing your clutch fork. You can see this is a bit corroded. If there's any damage on this, and especially if you put one of my clutch forks in, you've got to make sure that this is nice and clean and shiny. You can actually push them out and replace them. They're not too bad to do, but what I'll do now is I'll put this through the sandblaster and I'll show you how to clean, if it's any good or not. And the answer is no. I don't know if you can see this, but there's lots of wear on that ball. I'll hold it there for a minute because that's what causes this. You see how we caught this one just in time. It was just about to push through, and that's why when I do my clutch forks or the bush kit, you can replace that with it's a nylon bush. But if you ever see this, replace the pivot ball. It must be nice and shiny clean. Otherwise, even if you put a standard one in with that daft welded on piece on there, it's just going to wear through. It's like like grinding paste. Anyway, so the next thing we've got to do is take off those 19mm bolts inside here, and then we can manoeuvre this casing around a little bit. Dowels at the top are pretty hard to get off. Again, we're going to put the bolts back in the holes, just so we don't lose them for now. Again, this is just a rough strip down. See what it looks like. There are some long bolts and there are some short bolts of these. The long bolts go through the dowels, diagonally opposite. Right, that didn't take much doing, did it? Now I've already drained the oil out of this. So next thing we're going to do is going to take off that breather pipe here, because we don't need that. That's going to get in our way. It wasn't even tight. Right, the next thing we're going to take off, I don't know if you can see this. In here there is a roll pin holding this little selector on. Now we've got to knock it out, and invariably this is a bad design because when we knock it out we invariably knock it into the transmission. If you're careful you can knock it so you can keep the pin in, but there's actually a hole in this casting which I'll show you in a minute, and there it goes, it's falling in. Now, as luck be a lady tonight, the pin's not falling in, so again, magnet, punch, recover pin, job done. That can now slide back. That. Now we can get off this back cover. Now the back cover has 2 bolts in here. I wonder if we can get out with this socket. So that's one bolt and another one. That wasn't very tight. The next thing we need is a special socket. So that's what we need next. It's a 12-point socket. I've welded a spanner end onto a socket just to get me going on a 3/8 drive. And then we're going to take off these bolts on the side. There goes that one. When I put this back together I'm going to do something kind of interesting. I'm not going to use gaskets, I'm just going to use RTV sealer. Now, the last person didn't take off the mounting off here, so we're going to have to take that off to get to one of the bolts. Actually, that's a nice mounting. You don't always need to put these lock tabs on, spring washers are good enough. Right, let's get this bolt out. There we go. Now, oh, they're on hex. No, on the R380 at the bottom, they're standard hex, but these have got the multi ones on, so that's okay. Alright, so that's them out. Now, with a bit of luck, that should just slide off. I say should. Give it a few taps. There we go. Oh, it's dragging on the bench a bit. Then we can take this off. Keep that in there. We'll put a little box. We'll use this handy dandy tool here. Slip off the casing. Now, what do we see? Oh, look at that, for lads. Oh, look at that. This is very interesting. Hope you can see this. We'll zoom in a bit. Couldn't make this one up, could I? Notice how this clip here has come off. This is the retention clip for the synchro. There's a circlip on here. Got to take off. Got to take off the lock nut here. Right, okay, so that's alright. So let's see what else we've got to take off to get this off. Now what I do with these is I always destroy them, so you have no chance of putting the old one back on. They're only cheap, and usually if you're going to do this in a kit they'll come in a kit, the circlips. They're notoriously difficult to get off. There we go. Now it's coming off. Yeah. Now, even though it's destroyed, I'm going to put it into the box so I know where it is. Now let's take this off, if it will. I don't think it will. Yeah, somebody's had a real mangled go at this, Jesus. That should slide off. Well, how's that going to come off? Yeah, wait a minute, see if it prizes. There they go, there's that ring off. Oh, that's a ring off. Now this should come off. That's our little plate. Next thing we're going to take off, there's a circlip there. We can take that off while we're here. Not a circlip, like an E-clip. That little thing, it's just a stop. Take that off. Right, to get all this lot off, we're going to have to take out those 13mm there. Oops, there goes the synchro bits. They just flew off. Put them into the box. There should be another one, another little slipper there. Hope it hasn't damaged anything. And I'm always curious as to where all those bits have gone. That little bit of string. I always replace those anyway, so it doesn't really matter. This assembly is the 5th gear. The reverse is just like an old series box. The reverse is actually built onto the synchro for the 1st and 2nd. Bolt. This is why it's nice to do these on the bench, because rather than on the floor, because you want, if any little bits drop out, at least you can find them quite easy. But here it goes. Now, I'll say that I'll tell you for the reason why, because let's get that bolt out first. On here, when we take this unit off, these little brass slippers here come out. We don't want to lose them. There we go, we've got that off, got the bolt off, chuck that away. Now, pay attention to this little selector hubby, or whatever it's called, a shuttle. There's a broad bit and a thin bit. The thin bit goes towards the back. Alright, don't put it the other way around, you'll never get it off. Right, that's that done. Well, look, that's all come to pieces now. Yeah, unfortunately we didn't mark it up. And that should just pull off. Yeah, that one snapped off too. Or is it like that? Has it only got one in? Might only have one in. I don't know. Long time since I've played around with these. There's the balk ring for the 5th. Bit of wear on it. We've got a bit of paper towel in. See if there's any on it. Yeah. It must have happened a while ago because you see there's uneven polished surfaces on there. There's the gear off. Oh, and the spacer, don't forget the spacer. Now we can take off this split bearing. There we go. What I was going to say about the synchro unit here, there should be at least a 25 thou of an inch gap between the brass and the steel, and that is looking less likely. But when we go around to checking all this, we'll tell you about that. So the next thing is we've got to get this nut off here. We've got to take off the stalking off here and somehow pull this off, and this is where it's going to be tricky because I don't think our tool is going to get that off. However, we can get some sort of a... oh, look at that. I was going to say we can get some sort of pry bar on that, but there's kind of a bit of end float on there. But there's a ring on here that uses my tool to get that off, and I'm not sure if you could get that off kind of easy. We shall see. Yeah, that's a lot of end float on that layer shaft. There's a little screwdriver-y bit type thing, a little chisel just to open up the... Now we've got to somehow hold that. Normally I hold it with the gear, put a rag in it, but I'm not sure about this. Didn't I have a tool? Would I do anything like that? Right, that's that off. Now the thing is, how do we get that off? How would you get that off? You see, again, this is where this little ring thing comes in handy, because you can put that under there and pull that off. Well, you haven't got that. Could you use a puller? Maybe. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. Could you press it off once this is split? Difficult to say. Maybe you could. Well, I'll tell you what. Oh, don't lose this little square thing. I'm going to put that in there. I want to get into this without using special tools. So what I'm going to do now is take out this. There's a recess for a screw here. A flat screwdriver. It probably won't come out with the flat screwdriver. I didn't think it would. Take that out. Take this off. And we're going to see if we can just split this casing with this on. See if we can put the nut on and then just tap this through, because this is on a taper, this piece. Might come off. Let's put that nut back on just in case. Again, always put a new nut on. We need to get that out. I might have to drill that out. I wonder if I can get that out without taking that off. Maybe. Oh, let's see. We've got... this is the problem sometimes with these transmissions. Let's take this little keeper out of here. The R380 had a hexagon or Torx type fitting in there. So we'll get prepared, because now we're going to split this box and see what's in it. This is going to be a mess. Tight on the dowels. Progressively work around it. Try and work your way down to a dowel. Yeah, that's tight. Again, we're not too worried about this at the moment. We'll get that out later. Yeah, the dowels have rusted up. Bugger. We need a little wedge. This is typical of why you waste time. A little wedge just to push it off. Don't do things at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now it's going to come out. What are we going to find in here? We don't want to damage the casings, but then again we've got to get this off. Comes off. Don't forget this little washer that's come off the reverse side. Now let's get this out of the way. Well, good news is there's no teeth or anything like that in the bottom of the box. Input shaft off. Let's get rid of this casing. There's a synchro for that one. Put it over there. Next we've got to have to try and find out how the hell we're going to get that screw out and how the hell we're going to bang off this lace shaft. Yeah, we're doing it all sort of arse first, but I'm sure that you've had these problems before. Get rid of all this gasket stuff here. Yeah, there was a lot of playing. The gears look really good. Mind you, they always do. It doesn't look like there's any damage. Can we take that out? I don't think so yet, because we're still stuck here. Yeah. Now, to get this lace shaft piece off here, yeah, that's not gonna. It's all sort of higgledy-piggledy at the moment. What was that fell off? No. That ain't going to come off. I don't think so. Oh yes it is. Wait a minute. Did that? No. I want to knock the shaft through. Yes, it's coming off. Right, so that means we've got that off. Everything's sort of cascading down in a controlled demolition, but at least that little tap got this gear off. A bit of a struggle to get off. It's on a little spline. There we go, so we got that off, that was good. Now we can sort of drop the lay shaft out. We can take off the idler, take the pin out, put it in the right way around. Just inspect the reverse, that looks good. All we're stuck now for is this bloody daft pin. This screw. Now, the bearing is going to drop out. We can't get that. Where there's a willy, there's a way. So we got that bit out. Now, all we're stuck for, we can take that off. We can take that off, but we can't take that off. All we're stuck for now is getting this screw out of here. So once it's out, we're going to just knock out these bearing shells, so we don't sort of lose them or damage them. Because I've got a feeling we can use those again. You can't get them mixed up because they're different size. I'm going to take this across to the drill press and try and drill it out and put an easy out in there, because that's really tight. I think what they've done is they've punched over the outside of this, made it really nice. Anyway, we'll drill it out and we'll come back. So I drilled a hole through the screw and I tapped in one of these easy outs, which is just a square, and now I can get that out. Yeah, it's a bit tight. I had to warm it up quite a bit, but it's coming out. We'll just put a new one in there. Now inside there should be a spring and a ball. Going to come out. Obviously not. Come on. Well, there's pressures off it now, so that now we can take that fork out. Maybe we can push the ball through. And there she goes. There's the ball. And the spring. There only is one spring in these. On the R380 there's two. Anyway, and that's all there is to it. You know, that's that bit done. We'll strip this bit down separately. But so far so good. I'm looking at these synchros here, and they do look extremely good. I'm not going to change those. They feel really nice. In fact, do I need to change? Do I need to do that? I mean, gears feel nice. That synchro feels good. That's first, second, there's third. You know something? I think I might just wash these off and just clean it, put it back together again. See you in the next video.